I'm going to teach you how to master no track control within the F1 at 24 game, going over the details of fractional input that I'm doing to maximize the traction, stability and confidence within the F1 at 24 car, and hopefully passing them on to you so you can improve your driving skills, your confidence and your speed alike on the racing track. So I'm going to break it down into some simple to understand, easy to digest advice basically for you at home. So one thing that I've noticed that a lot of people struggle with turning off the traction control, to be honest, they get very comfortable with having the assist of the medium or the full traction control, and they get to the middle of the corner and they slam the throttle on. They get to the middle of the corner and they just start punching the throttle, and you can see I have my telemetry at the top of the screen so you can see exactly what I'm doing with my throttle inputs. But yeah, they get to the middle of the corner, and because they're used to having the safety blanket of having a medium or full traction control to compensate for their driving mistakes, that they start punching the throttle and going from 0 to 100% throttle straight away. Like even in Mags and Beckett, although we'll take it slower to exaggerate the example, you can see just going through the corner, just stabbing at the throttle brings like an instability to the car because you're shifting the weight distribution around, what we'll get into in more detail later in the video. So my first piece of advice, the first thing to master, is simply not going to 100% throttle straight away. Not just going bang 100% throttle. As you can see, it already caused the wheel spin. I'm going to show you an example for the final complex of corners here. You can see just tickling the throttle and then building up the throttle gradually from 0 to 100% throttle just over the course of like 100 meters on the corner exit. Building up the throttle from 0 to 100. Just going through these few examples now. On the brakes, down into third, building up the throttle, smoothly does it. Through the left-hander. You can see there's no sudden movements within my throttle. You can see I'm reacting to the car moving around, of course. But there's no sudden surprise movements. I'm not doing jerky knee-jerk reactions with my inputs. You can see now smoothly on the power, down into third. Now just squeezing the power ever so smoothly, and you can see I go from 0 to 100% power in a very smooth continuous curve, and that is what you're looking for when you're trying to get onto the power smoothly and get your confidence up, to be honest. The next segment we're going to be talking about is keeping the car in as straight line as possible on corner exits to increase the grip potential of the rear axle of the car. So I'm going to bring the car to a halt right now to show it in an explanation, in an example about how and why the weight distribution is changing and how that affects the grip of the car. So while we are in a static environment right now, both the rear tires have the same amount of weight distribution and thus the same amount of grip, because a lot of the grip is generated by friction of the tire being pushed down into the road, and that is how the tires re-gripping is by friction. The same way as when you're driving on ice, you do not have friction, and this is why you do not have grip. And the way that grip works, and the way that you generate grip with a rubber tire on a concrete surface, is quite simply the tire goes into the small holes of the road. You can see if we go into the nose camera right now, you can just about see it that the road is not a perfectly smooth surface. And if you go outside and look on a pavement, the tarmac, the road that you drive on with your day-to-day road car, you will see that the road is not a smooth surface either. It has very small holes in it, and that is what is generating grip for you, that the tire is going into those small holes and being forced to generate grip and be pulled across the surface by fulfilling and filling into those micro details of holes on the road. And that is how grip is basically generated. And the opposite is true when you're driving on ice. The reason that you do not have grip is quite simply that the ice is a completely smooth surface, so you do not have any tire to fill in the holes, because of course the ice is a smooth surface, so there's no holes to fill in that situation. And that is what's going to be generating friction, is the tire going into those very small holes and then being dragged and forced and pulled along the surface, and that is what's making grip basically. So what you're trying to do is make the grip as predictable and as easy to spot as possible. And when you're turning to the left, the force of the car will be traveled to the right, and when you're turning to the right, the force of the car will be put to the left. As you can see right now, when we're turning left, the car is being pushed down to the right hand side, and when we're turning to the right, the car is being pushed down to the left. And you can see right now quite aggressively how the car is shifting the weight distribution of the rear axle And the thing that people forget about, and the thing that people don't master when trying to learn new traction control, is how they have to remember that the weight distribution is changing all the time. And then when you're trying to get as much grip as possible out of the car, they forget that they're traveling not in a straight line, and this can be really negatively impacting the traction of the car. So we're going to go up to the final chicanes here in Silverstone and do a live example for you right now, and do a few attempts on how it looks and how it feels depending on very different approaches. So going into the final chicane right now, we're going to just basically stamp the throttle too early and not wait for the straight line of the car. And you can see we even ended up spinning, even due to my best efforts of trying to save the car. And what's going to happen here is, while the car is loaded, you can see we start getting back to the power, and the outside tyre has a lot of grip, has a lot of potential, but the inside tyre is of course being lifted off the ground effectively because the rear left is taking up all the grip. So the rear left probably has 85% of the grip potential in this cornering situation, and the rear right of course only has 15. Quick maths. So I really hope I didn't get that wrong. Otherwise the comments are going to be roasting me. But go back to the point. So yes, as you can see right now, the rear left has all the grip potential, the rear right does not really have that much grip potential, and it's causing massive sliding because of that. And by the time we do get the car towards the exit of the corner, the tires are sliding, they're not gripping, it's not good, it's not fast. So what we're going to do is go into a replay mode, take the flashback of the game, and then show you what happens if we're patient and then wait for the corner exit. So we're just going to not be on the throttle in the middle of the corner, and then when the car is straight, we start applying the throttle hard. And you can see right now the car is much more stable and predictable in this example, because we waited for the corner exit and when the car was straight, and then we started applying the power in a nice gradual smooth way, not any jerky, not unpredictable movements. So now what you want to do is, we saw that we could apply the power nice and safely, so we're going to start going through and apply the power earlier. So now we start applying the power earlier, and we're going to keep on doing that until we reach the grip limit and the grip potential of the car, and this is where you can start finding and discovering the limit. So find a baseline that is safe, predictable for you to work with, work forward from, and now you can see, because we know the grip line potential of the car and the baseline potential of the car, we can start working forward and basically gradually come more and more to power and understanding the grip dynamics of the car. So in summary, when you're trying to learn no traction control, first of all, do the corner slowly, wait for the straight line, and then build up the power very gradually and smoothly back to 100% power. It will feel a bit slow, it'll be a bit pedestrian, to be honest, at first. Then as you're building up your confidence, you can be back to the throttle earlier and earlier and earlier, and really getting the potential out of the car. So like I say, make a baseline that is safe, predictable for you to do, that you know that you won't spin with, and then building it up nice and smoothly and gradually as you get more and more confidence. And soon you'll be at a point that you can be really early on the power, really smooth, really gentle, and really driving at a really satisfying level. As I think a lot of driving and a lot of the motivation to drive is a lot down to satisfaction. And when you're frustrated, you're spinning, you're doing stuff that you don't want to be doing, and you can't understand or control the car, it becomes a situation that you're probably not even motivated to drive. I remember when I was learning to turn off traction control back in F1 2014, when I was making mistakes, it really hurt my motivation, to be honest, because I was so frustrated. But then as I started to learn, I started to understand what was happening with a car. I spent hours reading forums, watching videos. Driver 61 was a big one that I was always watching back then. I started to understand, learn, and through the satisfaction of the learning process and understanding what could happen with the car, I became to a point that I just started to fall in love with turning off the assist. And this is really what I hope this video can do for you, is like giving you a platform that you can start to learn what's happening with a car, and then through that you can start building up your confidence to turn off the traction control. The final thing that I'm going to be talking about in today's video for turning off traction control with this beginner guide and this entry level guide is going to be your differential setting on the rear of the car. So as you can see, we're in the track right now, so this is your on-throttle differential on the right hand side. And you can basically go up to 100% in the game, and you can also go down to the lowest point, that is 10%. And 10 versus 100, basically 10 means the differential is as open as possible. And what does that mean? Basically, when you're on the rear of the car, go into the rear camera, basically the rear differential is going to be controlling how much the rear tires spin at the same speed. So when you have 10% or as open of a differential as possible, it's going to allow the rear tires to spin at independent speeds. But when you have 100% locked on the rear differential going up there right now, you can see 100% locked on the rear differential. That means the rear tires are forced to spin at the same speed. You'll often hear within like drifting, for example, that they'll have like a welded diff or a locked differential. And basically, that is what is happening right now, but the differential is locked to spinning at the same speed for both rear axle and both rear tires. See, what happens when you're turning a car, we're going to go up to Cop's Corner to show you an example here. When you are turning a car, you have a situation that the inside tire is traveling less distance than the outside tire. So you can see right now, it's very marginal, but right now the outside tire is traveling a longer distance than the inside tire. What means it has an independent grip profile on how you can maximize that potential. And this is why when you're having a higher differential setting, i.e. 100%, you actually have more understeer because the rear tires are locked to traveling at the same speed. And that brings stability, of course, but is not meaning that you can maximize the grip potential. When you actually lower the rear differential down to 10%, its lowest setting, what means the differential is as open as possible, the inside tire will be traveling the different speed than the outside tire, what allows the tire to spin in an independent ratio and get its maximum grip potential from both tires because they're allowed to do their own thing and run their own party effectively. So, of course, going back to what I said earlier about the weight transfer as well, the outside tyre will always have more grip than the inside tyre, and that is what's key to remember. So you want to do as much of your work as possible to generate traction within the car to get the outside tyre as grippy as possible without compromising the inside tyre too much. That's how just weight transfer and grip is done. So, in summary, with the differential, the lower that you go, the more rotation and the more instability you'll have with the car. And the higher that you go on the differential, the more understeer and the more stability that you'll have within the car as well. In summary, the lower that you can go on the differential, generally the faster that you'll be, as it will allow more rotation. The key note here, though, is more rotation without instability. As soon as you start getting instability in the car, it will hurt your ability to have confidence and go back to the power to 100% as quick as possible on the exit of the corner. So that being said, you have to find a key balance for yourself, what you like between having good confidence and good stability and good pace. Normally on this game so far, let's say between 40 and 60% seems to be right for me. And that seems to be a really good balance and a really good level for me, that I'm able to get the car rotated down on 40%. And then maybe as the tyres become more and more worn during the stint, I'm able to put the differential up to 60% to bring more stability into the car. So hopefully this video has been informative, helpful, and is allowing you to gain confidence and enjoy the game even more and turn off the assist. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully you have. I've been Brendon Leigh, and I'll catch you tomorrow for the next video. Grazie, ciao ciao, bye bye.